So good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. My name is Sarah Northam, and I am the Scholarly Communications Librarian at Waters Library. I want to thank you for coming today and spending some time with your Saturday. And also, I'm excited to share information about library resources. With me is Karin Thomas, and you're going to see her in just a second. She is the Thesis and Dissertation Specialist in the Graduate School. So she's going to talk a little bit to you for a moment about grad formatting and stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and then I'll be back and we will get started on library resources.
This is Karin Thomas. I'm Thesis and Dissertation Specialist. I am going to briefly go through the requirement for formatting for both your proposal and your final documents. This is both thesis and dissertation. When the graduate school receives your proposal, we expect it to be already in the format that the graduate school requires. Of course, the document's not going to be complete because you haven't completed your study, but we expect it to be in the format required by the graduate school up to that point. So all of the preliminary pages should be in order. The references and the vita, if you have appendices, those should be in order too, in the correct format. So there are several different places you can go to find the format, find the template, and I don't see us sharing. Are we sharing?
Yeah, we're sharing.
Okay.
Can everyone see the Waters Library homepage?
Okay.
Fine.
First, we want to go to the graduate school page because I know a lot of people are familiar with that. Okay. And at the graduate school page, you want to go to
which page?
That's
are you
what I
looking for?
needed.
Okay.
Found it. Okay. I'm just not used to having to go to the internal resources. I always automatically am there. All right. So from here in the graduate school webpage, you're going to go to Forms and Guidelines. On Forms and Guidelines, you'll see all of the forms that you'll need, plus the thesis and dissertation template under thesis, as well as the formatting guide. And under the doctoral section as well, you'll see the thesis and dissertation formatting guide and the template. Now, my usual place of going is thesis and dissertation services. Whether you're a thesis student or a dissertation student, you both can go to resources for writing. Graduate school templates and guides, the dissertation template, thesis dissertation template, and the formatting guide, both there. You find them there at the thesis. I know this is very redundant, but it's important that I point these out because I get a lot of documents that are not in the format we require. So I'm just reminding you. So I'm pulling up the thesis document. Let me put this down here and pull it over.
And it should be the screen share, so just double check that they can see it.
Can everybody see the thesis and dissertation template now? Okay. Now you'll notice, let me put this a little bit bigger. You'll notice that on this page is red text. That is the text you're replacing your information with. And on the side are comments that tell you more specifically how to format these items. For instance, here I tell you to make your name even with the 5 on the left ruler bar. And then I give you instructions on how to find that left ruler bar. Then I give you, again, all the details on the submitted page, the second page. Comments on how to include the information, the copyright page, the abstract. Now, the abstract page is a little different. You'll notice the abstract heading is lower. It's at 1.5. Now, you can either set the top margin for that page only to 2.5. I know that sounds strange, or you can hit, enter above the heading till the left ruler bar is 1.5. So Also be aware of the spacing. It's a little different on this page. And on the second page, if your abstract goes more than one page, be sure and change the top margin back if you change the top margin. All right. Acknowledgements don't have to be completed in the proposal stage, but they do in the final if you choose to include acknowledgements. And it's always a nice thing to do since you have people that help you along the way. And that's basically what that is thanking them for their help along the way, or patience. It might be just thanking your family for their patience while you work on it. The table of contents, we ask that you use the Word document, the Word tools to create your dot leader. This is a dot leader line. We're very particular about that, and the spacing before and after. Next, tables and figures. If you have them, at least put or expect to have them, at least put a placeholder page in your document. If it's a proposal, in the final, of course, you will have it. Do not include a list of tables or a list of figures if you only have one. They're only included if you have two or more. Then you get to the document itself. Again, you're going to use the chapter formatting. Now, you could change the chapter headings, and you can use the subheading style of your style guide. So most of our submissions are APA, but not all of them. So be sure to know what your style guide requires. If they don't require anything, we just suggest follow what we have here in our document template. A couple of other things that are important to notice. If you have a definitions of terms, notice definitions is plural, and this is how you format them. All numbered and bulleted lists are indented 0.5. You start every chapter on a new page. And then we go to some examples of tables. These are ways for you to know how to format them. They should all be double spaced, left aligned. That means with the left margin, aligned to the left margin. Same with the figures. And the way you head the tables and figures will depend on your style guide again. And so let's see. Then the references, again, those are formatted according to your style guide. If they require hanging indents, you'll need to go through the settings in Word to create your hanging indent, and it should be 0.5. Double space your references no matter if your style guide shows them single spaced or not, but don't include extra spaces between the references. Then your appendices, you'll follow again. There's instructions in the comments, a title page for each appendix. If you only have one appendix or appendix, you'll just use appendix, and then it'd be basically this title page, whoops, without the A, and then the title of the appendix, and then you'd have your appendix. And the appendix document would have the appendix title only, not the appendix A, but just the appendix title only. And then a vita, and this gives you an idea of how, what information to include on your vita. The vita is in paragraph form, it's not your resume. And let's see, I have included a template in the case, in case you have a landscape oriented page. This will help you place the page number in the correct spot. Because when you have a landscape page, the page number is way down here in the bottom right corner, facing down or sideways, actually. It's so when it's turned upright, it's in the same spot that it is on the portrait pages. And I also provide a link in another spot. Let me go now, find this.
What you looking for?
I'm just going to get this page up again. And that's not.
I've got like several.
Yeah, I see
Open.
that.
Which one are you looking for? That's it.
Yep. All right. Now I wanted to go briefly over the dissertation formatting guide. This gives you more detail about what we go through, what we give you in the template. So it tells you what the preliminary pages are, what the body of the manuscript is made up of, and the arrangement we expect it to be in, how to format headings and subheadings, how to put page numbers, I think are even in here. Yes, page numbering, how to page number the documents. In addition, I'm going to rush through this since I expect everyone to take a moment to look through it themselves. We have example pages, again, with more the detailed instructions, and then a summary of what is we expect to see on those pages. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because this is sometimes very helpful. There's a sample vita for anybody who would like to have a sample to go by. And then appendices to give you an idea of how to set up tables. Generally, this is APA style, and a lot of tables are pretty much going to follow this example. We expect all tables to be double spaced, though, whether your style guide shows them single spaced or not. You can single space within the row, but double space between the rows. And if it continues, if it's long and continues to another page, this shows you, excuse me, how to continue the table. Figures, again, this is what we expect with APA. Your style guide may be slightly different and have a caption rather than a title. A caption meaning it goes below. You'll follow your style guide with that. And here's an example of a caption here. And if you have parts to your figure, be sure and label them. And then explain what those different parts are in the caption below or in a note, depending on whether it has a title or a caption. And you see how I've continued the figure for an example there. I think that's it. I'm going to stop sharing that page. Listen, if you have any questions that you think of later, email me either at karin.thomas@tamuc.edu. That's Karin though, or it might be easier just to send them to tds@tamuc.edu. And thanks so much for joining us and have a good day.
So let's get the library portion of this started. So today I'm going to take you through several resources that the library has available, but I'm also going to show you a few things outside of the library that could be helpful for you as students. I am going to cover a lot of ground. So first off, let's talk about the library's homepage and OneSearch. So I'm sure that you're all familiar with searching OneSearch. It is basically the library's research portal. What you might not know is it searches the majority of resources that the library has access to. And I just want to double check that I shared my screen. Can everyone see the Waters Library homepage right now?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're thinking about how you want to search OneSearch, you also have to think about a search strategy. And this isn't just for OneSearch. This is going to be for anything that you use as a research tool. You have to think about the terms that you're going to use to search. You want to think about how you're going to combine those terms. OneSearch is a wonderful tool, and so is Google, but you also need to think about searching the individual databases related to your field. Yes, Melanie, that you'll definitely get a copy of the recording. And so, especially when you're doing thesis or dissertation research, you're kind of looking for gaps. So you have to search more than one area. And you have to do more than one type of search. So for example, let's say that you're looking at reading skills and EC through 4 for students, okay? You can't just search the terms reading skills and early childhood. You have to think about all of the different ways that that could be described, all right? So not only reading skills, but maybe early reading. You could do accelerated reading. So you're thinking of different terms. Another way of thinking about this is, let's say that you were going to do something like mobile phones and safety. So think about all of the different ways that you could describe a mobile phone. You've got cellular phone, you've got cell phone, you've got iPhone, Android. So you're kind of building your strategy by thinking about all of the different ways something can be described or found. The other thing you really have to think about is how things change and evolve. Language changes over time. We use new terms to refer to things. So depending on how far back the information that you're looking for is, or if you're wanting to kind of do like a historical overview of a topic, you also have to think about something like that. And a really good example of this is like the term disability. So if you think about it right now, the term disability is a term that's widely used, but it's starting to be replaced by other terms. So like you might hear accessibility, you might feel, whereas once we would have used autism or Asperger's, now you're hearing the term neurodivergent. If you go back to disability, I want you to think about the terms that would have been used 10 years ago to describe disability. So you would have had disability. If you were looking at education, you might have had special education. But let's take that a step further and go back like 25 years. So disability wasn't really used 25 years ago, but you would have had something like retarded or retardation. If you take that back even further, you go to like the 60s and 70s, you would have seen terms like crippled. Imbecile was actually a common term to describe disability, especially as it pertained to like problems with brain injuries. So you have to think about how that term or how that might be described over time. Then the final thing to kind of like that search strategy is you have to think about spelling. And I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not necessarily just talking about making sure you spell correctly, because y'all, I am like the queen of misspelling everything. But you have to think about how outside of the United States, a lot of common English terms are spelled completely different. Now, if most of your research is focused inside the United States, that might not matter. But if you're wanting to do like a global perspective, you need to think about something like, how is color spelled in the United States versus how color is spelled in European English-speaking countries. So you've got C-O-L-O-R versus C-O-L-O-U-R. So those are all types of things, especially when you're doing in-depth research, that you have to think about. Now that I've gone on that really long-winded explanation about searching, let's actually conduct a search. So I'm going to go to the one search box, and I'm actually going to click on advanced search because I want to set this up a little bit differently. Now, if you'll notice over here, it has the ability for you to sign in. I am going to sign in because there's a lot of benefits to signing in that you might not be aware of. Now, of course, you're going to have to go through the single sign-on. That's just your MyLeo information or your domain information if you maybe possibly teach on campus. Hit login. And of course, you're going to have to do our favorite friend duo. And thankfully, the cell service in my office is working quickly today. Now that I'm signed in, however, you'll notice that over here, you can see my name. And if you drop on that, you can see things like library card, my loans. So that's like books that you might have checked out, requests, ref works, favorites, etc. So now let's go back to our search field, and I'm going to put in a search for, let's do educational leadership. and then teacher retention, okay? And you'll notice I'm going to add a line, and I'm going to put teacher and retention on different lines. So let me tell you a few things about why I did this. So if you're not familiar with it, you'll notice that I put educational leadership in quotes. The reason I did that is telling the search interface that I want to keep educational leadership together as a phrase. Otherwise, it treats it as educational and leadership. So you're going to get information about educational leadership, the phrase, but you're also going to potentially get a lot of not related information because it's looking at the two terms separately. So you might get an article about educational in-service over here, but you might also get an article about business leadership because we're not trying to combine the two terms. But if we put the educational leadership in the phrases, it's going to look at it in that order as a phrase when it's searching. You'll also notice that I put teacher and retention on separate lines, and I combine this using and. Now, some of you might already be familiar with what's called Boolean operators. First off, that's a fun word to say. You could almost make a drinking game out of it every time somebody said Boolean to see how much fun they had. But these actually do really precise things in your searching, and you can think of it almost as power-upping your searching. So when you're using Boolean operators, I like to describe it kind of as a sandwich. Bear with me. So when you think about a sandwich, right, what are the absolute things that you have to create a sandwich? So for most of it's probably going to be bread and cheese and meat, right? So that is our and operator. Those are going to be the things that we absolutely have to have in our search or on our sandwich. Then we have or. So these are going to be our options, okay? This gives us a wider variety of choices. So even though we have to have bread and cheese and meat, do we want wheat or rye bread? Or do we want cheddar or Swiss cheese? Or do we want turkey or ham? So you see how that kind of expands your options? So and makes something very specific, or gives you options in your searching. So for example, we could do educational leadership and teacher or instructor, and that's going to give us searches for both educational leadership and teacher. And then it's also going to give us a search for educational leadership and instructor. All right. Finally, not is going to be the things that you don't want on your sandwich. So if we're building a bread, meat, and cheese sandwich, I can almost guarantee that we probably don't want peanut butter. And if you do, more power to you, okay? So peanut butter is going to be what you don't want. So if we go back to our search, and let's say that we're doing educational leadership and teaching, maybe we want to focus exclusively outside the United States. So we could do educational leadership and teacher, not United States. So what we've done is we've told the search that we want to look for articles where maybe research was conducted outside the United States about educational leadership and teaching. So that's why your Boolean operators can be really helpful. They help you to expand or narrow your search. So I'm going to pause for a minute because I know I've been talking about sandwiches and everything else to see if anybody has a question or if you need clarification on anything. All right. So now that we've built our search of educational leadership and teacher and retention, I'm going to go ahead and hit search, and we're going to see what types of items that you have. So you'll notice that this actually gave us a pretty narrow pool already. It gave us 1,592, and I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger because apparently I can't see things today. So you'll notice here's our search results, but you'll also notice over here, this says personalized, and it says that because I signed in earlier to the OneSearch system. So if I click on this, and since I've already got it set up, I can turn this on and off. So if I turn it on, I can select specific disciplines. So if you look here, you'll notice it says personalized results. So I can tell the system to kind of remember what I want. So if I want to look at just newer material, I believe that's material within the last 5 years, I can select that, but I can also go down to edit discipline, and I can tell it what kind of disciplines. And what that means is these are going to be the content areas that the system is searching. So if I tell it arts and humanities, it's only going to look for like peer-reviewed articles from journals that are considered arts and humanities journals. And it's only going to be pull books that are considered arts and humanities books. So this is kind of a way to tell the database in advance, this is the type of information I'm looking for. Maybe you want to look at this as from a more psychology-driven perspective. So you can go over here and choose like social sciences and psychology, but you can set it up to customize it to pre-select your discipline. So I'm going to leave mine as is, and you can't see it because of my screen, but now I'm going to do save changes, and I can go down and filter my results. All right. So 1,500 results is fantastic, but that's a lot of results to go through. So you kind of then have to narrow those results to determine what it is that you're looking for. So you'll notice that the first filter we have is availability, but I also want to point out the resource type filter. So for example, let's say that to begin with, you don't want to look necessarily at peer-reviewed journals. You want to focus more specifically on books to see what kind of books are available. So you could go down to resource type, scroll down, and then select books. And now we're looking at only the books about this topic. We can take this a step further. For example, let's say that you don't live in commerce and you don't have the ability to come to campus, so you only want to see books that are electronically available. Then you can select available online. But y'all, here comes my soapbox speech. Don't feel that you can't request print materials from the library even though you don't live in commerce. So what I mean by this, let's say that you're a student in Oklahoma, all right? You don't come to the Commerce campus. You do most of your classes online. So you need to have the ability to also access our print resources. Anything we have in the library that is available for checkout, you can request to have sent to your home. And if you request that, we will include return postage. So let's say that you want to borrow a print book on teacher certification. You can request it through our Interlibrary Loan system, which I'm going to show you in just a second, and then ask to have it sent to your house. We'll mail it to you. You can do with it what you need, and then there'll be return postage so you can send it back to us. So always remember that no matter where you're located, you have access to all of the resources that the library can give you access to. All right. So now that we've kind of talked about books, let's say that you want to read this particular book. So you can click on the title. And since this one is available online, once you've clicked on the title, all you have to do is go down to full text availability, click on whatever database that this book is available through, and then you can read the book. You can go right into it. If I go up and I close my tab, it's going to take me back to my search results, and I'm going to X out because now I want to focus on peer-reviewed articles. So I'm going to go up here to where it says active filters. If I still want to search within these search results, I don't have to do my search over. I can just see, yes, Shannon, I'm going to do that when I talk about Interlibrary Loan in just a second. So thank you for asking. So we don't have to start our search over completely. I'm just going to do reset filters. And so now we have access to our original search results before we limited it to just books. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select peer-reviewed journals. So that's going to give me only journals that come from an academic journal. Now here's kind of a trick question, and I kind of want to see hands and stuff. Is there content in a peer-reviewed journal that doesn't go through peer review? So if you think yes, kind of give me a hand clap or a hand raise or something. And then if you think no, that there's never content that doesn't, or there's always going to be content that doesn't go through peer review, give me a hands up or a clap on that. And for the person that pointed out it's a trick question, it is very much a trick question. There is always going to be content in peer review journals that does not go through peer review. Don't panic, however, because it's usually going to be pretty obvious if it hasn't gone through peer review. So if you see something and it says book review, if it says opinion or commentary, editorial, anything like that will not go through peer review in an academic journal. Occasionally, you might run across a book review that does go through peer review, but it's going to be one of those book reviews that like is maybe 10 to 15 pages long and could be comparing multiple books, all right? For the most part, when you use the peer review filter in OneSearch, it's not going to show you the content like book reviews and commentaries, all right? You generally do not have to worry about it. But a quick rule of thumb, if you come across an article doing a peer review search and it's like a unicorn, and what I mean by that is it's like 3 to 4 pages long, it's probably not gone through peer review, y'all, especially if there's like no citations, if it doesn't have an extensive bibliography or footnotes, that's always going to be a good indicator that something hasn't gone through peer review. So like I said, you're probably not going to encounter articles like that when you narrow to peer review, but just kind of keep that in the back of your head. If you're sitting there and you're like, this article doesn't look like it went through peer review, it might not have, all right? The other thing I want to notice is you'll see right here where it says expand my results. This can be your friend. So you'll notice right now that I have 154 results. These are only going to be results that our library has immediate access to. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to do expand my results. And something magical is going to happen. So in this case, it wasn't as dramatic as it could have been, but you notice how that went from 154 to 190. With expand my results, we're searching for items that the library doesn't have access to, but that we can probably borrow through Interlibrary Loan. This looks at items that we don't own, but you can still request them. So this is a nice way of kind of searching other literature. And I want to emphasize, if you are doing dissertation or thesis research, you never want to limit to just the full text stuff that the library has access to. So when we look at databases in a minute, I'll show you how to do it there. But in OneSearch, if you turn on this expand my results, that's going to show you items outside of our collection. If I scroll down a little bit more, I can narrow by publication date. So you'll see that this is 94. Let's go through and make this 2017. And then I'm going to hit refine. That's going to take my results down to 80. But then I've also got subject. Subject can be one of the best ways that you can narrow or specify your results. So here's another fun question. This is not a trick question, Shannon. How many of you have like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, which we're not supposed to talk about, and you use a hashtag when you maybe do a post or you search for information? So for example, let's say that you're on Instagram and you want to look for pictures of Ryan Reynolds. So you do a search for hashtag Ryan Reynolds, right? It's going to pull up every Instagram post that has that hashtag in it. It's a way of sorting and filtering information to get you directly to where you want to go. The subject term is basically the same thing, all right? The only difference is, whereas on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, the hashtag is randomly created, like there's really no thought behind it. When it comes to subject terms, those are very precisely created so that they can sort information. So in this case, since we're looking at articles, the subject term is a way of sorting articles. And if one of these terms is attached to the article, it's not going to be that the article mentions that term one time, okay? The predominant point or theme of the article is going to be related to that term. So this is a really nice way to quickly sort information in a search to kind of get to something more specific. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go through here, you'll notice that I have a subject term of educational leadership. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. But here I've also got the term teacher retention. So I'm going to look at that. But you'll notice that I also have school principals mentioned. Now, this could be in context of retaining school principals, or it could also be in context of what principals can do to retain teachers. I'm going to exclude principals because I kind of want to see what's out there. So if I hit that red box, that's going to exclude this hashtag or subject term from my search. Finally, I'm going to go down and apply filters. And so you'll notice that I went down to 43 results, but these should be much more specific to educational leadership and teacher retention, because I've now narrowed by a subject term or a hashtag, and I'm not doing just a keyword search. So kind of to give you another example, a keyword search is just going to look for certain terms throughout an article record, whereas a subject term means that somebody has physically gone in and evaluated that article and attached that term to it because they've determined that that article is about that topic. So that's what I mean when I say it's a much more specific way of narrowing your results. So as I scroll down, let's say that I want to look at this article, Building Experience and Retention, the Influence of Principal Tenure on Teacher Retention Rates. If I click on this title, this is going to take me to what in library land we call the article record. All that means is this is information about the article. So if I scroll down, I can see a description of the article. But you'll notice that there's also more subject terms. These are going to be even better than the subject terms on the previous page. And let me tell you why. They're the exact same thing. They're the exact same concept, but these are the subject terms that are describing this article. So let's say that you're looking at this article and you realize that it's pretty on point to what it is you're wanting to research, and you want to find more articles like it. If you look at these subject terms, it can do two things. First, it could suggest keyword terms that you haven't thought about. So for example, if we go through here and you see the term workforce planning, you might think, oh my gosh, I've done all of this searching and I never thought to look for workforce planning. You can write that down and then go back and do keyword searches for it later to kind of find more information. But the other thing you can do is you'll notice that these are all linkable. So let's say that I want to take a closer look at school principals, which is funny considering I excluded them on the previous page, but that's how we roll around here. I can do a right click and open, and this is going to conduct a brand new search, but the search is going to be very specific because it's searching school principals as a subject, meaning it's searching it as a hashtag, specific articles attached to this term, as opposed to a keyword, whereas it might just be that the term is randomly mentioned somewhere in the article record, okay? I hope that that makes sense and is clear. If I scroll down, you'll notice that it did hold on to the filters that I set previously, but remember how I was like, oh, but it held on to school principals. That's because we took out principals. We didn't take out school principals, okay? I can add a new line and I could put in a word here. So let's say that now I want to look specifically at teacher retention. So I'm doing a subject search with school principals, but then I'm doing a keyword search using teacher retention. Hit search, and here I go. And you'll notice that it also held on to my expand my results. I do have to narrow to peer review again, but you'll notice that now my active filters have also been turned off. So if I want to, I'll have to go back and redo my subject and things like that. But this is another quick and easy way to kind of get to more results. So I'm going to go back to my previous page, and there's a couple of other things I want to point out. So you'll notice here that you've got related reading. This can be a cheat because what this means is these are articles that match this article in terms of like keywords or subject terms. So they're usually going to be about the same topic. So this is a really quick and easy way to get to another article that could be related to your topic. But there's something even better here. If I scroll down, you'll notice that here I've got something that says citations, and I've got a citing this and a cited in this. So if I do a right click and open on cited in this, it's going to open a new tab at the top. And you'll notice that now I've got 42 results, but here's where the fun comes in. All of these articles are articles that we have access to that this article building experiences has cited in its bibliography. Okay, so I just want to let that soak for a minute. This article has cited these articles as it was writing its paper. That is two things for you. One, again, it's a way. Thank you, Scott. That's the reaction I was going through. So one way you can use this is, again, as a cheat, because if these articles are being cited, they're probably going to be about the same topic. The other way of using this is a way of looking backwards in the research, all right? So think of research as kind of like a circle or a conversation, and people build upon previous research. So if you're looking at these articles, this could be giving you a background This could be giving you background insight into how this topic has evolved or changed, all right? But there's one that's even better. I feel like a used car salesman, but wait, there's more. So if I go back to my article, you'll notice that there's also citing this. So if I do a right click and open here, this is the one item in our that as in our collection that has cited this article in their bibliography. All right. So I want to let that soak for a minute. This article is cited in the bibliography of this article. Again, this is a way of building upon your research because it's probably going to be about the same topic. But when you're looking at items that have cited the information you're looking at, this is a way of looking forward in the research, okay? This can be a way of kind of tracing how research or how that topic has changed since that article was written, all right? These can both be incredibly helpful things when conducting research. But this is where our friend, thank you, Sharon, I'll take that. But this is where our friend Google Scholar can come in handy too. So if I take this title and do a copy and then go over to Google Scholar, and y'all, this is where you get my Google Scholar lecture, be prepared. Google Scholar is a misnomer. And the reason I say that is that Google Scholar has a lot of content in it that is not scholarly. What Google Scholar does is it looks at a subset of information on Big Google that Google Scholar considers educational. Y'all, Google Scholar has a very loose definition of educational. It could be blog posts from an organization like the American Heart Association. It could be things from like ResearchGate or academia.com. Again, these are legitimate sites where you can access academic research. However, there's also a lot of research on there that is probably nonsense because anybody can use those tools to post their research. So again, you're going to find a lot of legitimate research in Google Scholar, but you just have to be more cautious about evaluating what you find to make sure that it's legit. So then I'm going to do a right click and paste and hit enter. So this is the article that we were just looking at. Oh, no wonder there's hardly anybody that cited it. We found a unicorn, y'all. This was just published in the last year. But you'll notice that this says cited by 2. So I'm going to find a different one because I want you to see something. Let's do the fiery trial. Okay, so this is a book. So Google Scholar will not only give you citation counts for articles, but it'll also give you citation counts for books. So you'll notice here where it says cited by 568, then you can go through and look at who all has cited this article. Again, this is kind of a cheat to see what other information is out here. Since it is Google Scholar, you do have to be a little bit more cautious, but you have this topic available. And so I'm going to stick with Google Scholar for just a second, and then we're going to go back to OneSearch. So let's say that you go through here and you see this book and you're like, I wonder if that could be, useful for my research. You can click on the link and it should take you to Google Books. So here's where Google Books can come in handy for your research. So let's say that you've seen a book and you're not sure if it'll be helpful, but you don't really want to go through what's called Interlibrary Loan to borrow it. Again, I'm going to get to Interlibrary Loan, but you really want to know if it's going to be useful. If you go to Google Books and the book is on Google Books, you can do searches within the book. And it will tell you how many times that term is mentioned in the book. Now, it won't show you the full book, so be aware of that. It's not something that you want to rely on for your research, but this can give you an idea of whether or not you need to request that book to use for your research, okay? Everybody with me so far? I'm going to assume that's all good. If I go back, the last thing I'm going to show you here before I go back to OneSearch is you see this little hamburger thing? You can click on this, go down to settings, and if you're signed into Google, click on library links. You can actually set Google up to recognize our proxy settings. That means you can set Google up to log into our library if it recognizes that our library has access to that item. All you have to do is enter commerce here, and it's going to search all of the different institutions that have commerce in the title. You can click those boxes and then hit save. And now we've set it up, and I'm not signed in, y'all. And now I've set it up to recognize our campus when it's looking for articles. Every now and then this will reset, generally about a year. So if you go from being able to access articles through Google search after you've done this to not being able to, just go in and reset these library links, and that's just unchecking and saving, and then go and recheck and save, and you should be able to access those articles again. Now here's the downer portion of it. If you're not enrolled in classes, y'all, unfortunately you're not going to be able to access the resources in the library. So that was a really quick overview on Google Scholar, but you'll notice that now I'm back in my search. Now, when I look at check for available services, that means that we don't have this article available in our library, all right? But you can still get it. You know, I keep talking about this mythical thing called Interlibrary Loan. This is where Interlibrary Loan comes in really handy. If I scroll down and I click on request through Interlibrary Loan, that's going to take me to the Interlibrary Loan portal. And I'm going to take a quick drink of water, y'all. Once I get to Interlibrary Loan, if you've never used it, you'll have to create an account. But once you've created an account, you can sign in. And I can request this item from another library. Since I pulled it over from OneSearch, it's automatically going to fill in the relevant information that's needed. And then all I have to do is hit submit request. And since this is an article, I might have this article within a day or two. Generally speaking, with articles, we get them extremely quickly. Books can take up to 2 weeks. Now, remember how I said you could request books also. So I'm going to open up a new tab because I want to show you an alternative way of getting to Interlibrary Loan. So I'm going to go to the library's homepage. Then I'm going to scroll down and here's the Interlibrary Loan link. Just click on that. And then I can log in and hit create request. I'm going to switch this over to book. And let's say that I wanted to request like that fiery trial book I was just looking at. Fill in the bare essentials. And honestly, the more information you can fill in, the better. But as I scroll down here in the comments, I can put, could you please mail this to my house? I am a remote student. What will happen is when this book comes in, you'll be contacted by your Interlibrary Loan specialist. He will ask you if you want this book mailed, and then you'll provide your email, or provide your mailing address. He'll package it up, ship it to your house, and it'll have return postage. You can do this for books that are in the library's collection physically, print books, but you also can do this for books that the library does not own. All right. So if I go back, remember how I signed in earlier? This is where signing in comes in handy. You'll notice that these articles all have thumbtacks. So if I go through, I can select the thumbtacks of the articles that I kind of want to hold on to. Now that I've done that and I go up to my name and click on the thumbtack, I know, Lisa, it's pretty fun. I can see the articles that I just added. And when I'm logged into OneSearch, I can see them again. But you can also save searches, y'all. So if I go to save query, now I've saved that search, but I can go up here and you'll notice that this says turn notification on for this query. If I click on that, I can set this up to send me an email whenever an item is added that matches my search filters or my search results. So what that means is if I do save query and set up a notification, it's going to send me, let me know. Scott, you're making me happy. It's going to let me know when a new article matching these filters is added to the collection. I know, right? And then I can also, like if I don't set up a query, I can still access the search. I just won't get the fancy like notifications. And that'll be here under saved searches. If you no longer want to save a search or you no longer want to get notifications, you can just go here and you can remove this search and you'll no longer get notifications. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop for a minute because I know we're at time. So if you no longer want to stay, do know that this is being recorded and I will send it, but I'll kind of go on because there's some things that I can still show. So if you can stay, please hang out with me. If you can't, I understand. I'm going to send the recording. If you had some questions and you can't stay, just shoot me an email and that will be included with the follow-up and we can set up another time to talk. All right. So if everybody's cool, I'm going to switch over from OneSearch. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage because now I want to look at a few databases. Okay. Thank you, April. You have a wonderful day. Thanks, Lisa. So I'm going to click on databases because I want to look at a database called ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. So, and if you've been getting grad news, you'll notice that this week, I think I mentioned ProQuest Dissertation and Theses. So if I go and click on P and scroll down quite a ways, here is ProQuest Dissertations and Theses full text. So what this database does is it allows you to search dissertations and theses from around the globe. Why would that be helpful to you as a student? Because you can't really cite a dissertation or thesis, even though it's an academic work, it's not considered like an officially published academic work, like you would like walk into a bookstore and be able to find it. Dissertations and theses can be an extremely helpful tool, especially if you're working on a dissertation and thesis, because you can look and see how other students have structured their format. You can look and see how other students have maybe carried out surveys. You can mine the bibliography. So what I mean by that is you can analyze their bibliography to see if there's articles that could be helpful to your research topic. You can also look up your institution and your advisor to see how what types of dissertations or theses that they have advised on before. So let's take this and let's have some fun with it. So I'm going to go down, and first I'm going to limit this to institution. So I'm going to go look up institution. I am going to enter commerce, because y'all, it's always easier to just search commerce. And then I'm going to hit find. And you'll notice that right here is A&M-Commerce, and then I'm going to add it to search. And now I'm going to look up advisors. And because Dr. Brown is here, and I love Dr. Brown, and I always pick on him, I'm going to look for Dr. David Brown. So I'm going to enter a name, and then I'm going to hit find. And you'll notice that there's several David Browns, so we're going to have to determine which one is our David Brown. But I believe, I can't remember if it's David B or David A. But for now, I'm just going to select Brown David. And then I'm going to hit add to search. All right. So now I've set this up not to look for keywords, but to look for a specific institution and a specific advisor. The other way that this could be helpful is if it's an advisor, they could always advise students working on similar topics. And so again, it's kind of an easy way to look for further research, because you can then look at the bibliography. I'm going to hit search. And here we've got dissertations from Texas A&M University-Commerce. And if I click on the title, at some point it's going to say that the advisor was David Brown. Right there, y'all. Oh, it's David L. Brown. So that is how you can use ProQuest dissertations and theses. And so if I scroll down, I can look at like their methodology. I could look at, if I scroll way down, I could look at their bibliography. Again, this is just another way of kind of helping you in your research. I'm going to scroll back to my database list. And you'll notice that we have over 300 databases. Always make sure that you go and search the individual databases in your subject area. So for example, if I scroll down and click on education, these are databases that we consider the most useful for education. Doesn't mean that they are the only ones to use. It just means that we consider them really helpful. So I want to look at ERIC EBSCO because it's one of the more popular education databases. And if I go in, I can click on advanced search. Now, this is where it gets a little different from OneSearch. If I scroll down, I can actually select the education level of the study that I'm looking for, the intended audience. I can select like what its clearinghouse review is, publication type. So the difference between going into an individual database versus OneSearch is I can set up a little bit more specific filters to search for information. So for example, I'm going to scroll back to my A to Z list, and I am going to see I'm going to look at Teacher Reference Center, because some of these will even have it set up to where you can filter by quantitative or qualitative. So you can look for articles that have quantitative research or qualitative research. And of course, you know, today I'm not finding it right off the bat because that's how it works. I'm always going to click on advanced search. And over here under publication type, you'll see different publication types, but I'm not going to keep searching because I don't want to waste time. But just know that a lot of databases will let you filter by some things like that. The other thing to remember is a lot of times you can just put qualitative or quantitative in as a keyword, and it's also going to pull up quantitative or qualitative studies. So I'm going to do a quick search here just to kind of see what this looks like. So I'm going to do teacher retention. I'm going to scroll down, not limit to full text, because I want to see everything that's available in this database, not just what's available full text. And so again, this goes back to the idea, libraries can't subscribe to every journal that's out there. So what we do is we subscribe to journal packages. So whenever you limit to full text, you're only seeing the journals that we have full text access to. That's why when you're doing research, always do that expand or uncheck full text so you can get access to more research. I am going to set this to a document type. I'm going to do an article, and then I'm also going to say that I want, like, I can do like even charts and diagrams if I want to. I can also do like also search within the full text of the articles. So when this is searching out your keywords, remember how I kept saying it was just looking at the article record? That's mainly going to be your abstract and those subject terms. In the databases, I could do this also search within the full text of the article. What that means is it's going to look at the body of the article itself to see if it matches your keywords in any way. So it's kind of a more in-depth search in a way, but you also might potentially get articles that aren't useful because the term was mentioned one time. So I like to use it sometimes because I can really find hard to find topics, but it can also backfire sometimes. Pleasant, right? So I'm going to do search. So you'll notice that I have 3,000 results. Again, you can filter to your heart's content. They've got publication, subject, etc. I could slide this bar down to look at like 2021. And if it is an article that we don't have in our collection, you're going to see this find it at TAMUC. If I click on that, it's going to do one of two things. It will tell me if it's available in a different database. So for example, this database that I'm in is EBSCO Education Source, but we have this journal available in Wiley Journals. So then I can access the article through that method. Or it's going to pull up an Interlibrary Loan request link, and I can click on the link and request it through Interlibrary Loan. One of the other databases I'd like to point out is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go back to all subjects, and then I'm going to click on W for WorldCat. WorldCat literally stands for World Catalog. It looks at library catalogs around the globe to tell you what types of information is out there. This is another really good way to look for things like books that we don't have in the library collection. Yes, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Google, and those are going to be helpful, but WorldCat has something that Google Books and Google and all of them don't have. So if I do a search, I'm going to limit my type to books and then hit search. So these are all books that are related to teacher retention. So you'll notice that if we own it, it's going to show up Texas A&M University-Commerce, Vel McKay. If we don't own it, I can click on the title. And then you see here where it says request through Interlibrary Loan. I can click on that and it's going to pull up the Interlibrary Loan portal, and I can borrow this book. But what I want to point out is, let's say that you found this book, again, really helpful, or you think it's going to be really helpful. A lot of times they're going to have the title or the chapter headings. Not all of them are going to have an abstract. That is a bummer, but you're almost always going to be able to see the chapter headings. But you've also got these descriptors. These are just like subject terms. So if you go through here and you realize that you really want to look at books about lesson planning, you can click on that subject. It's going to do a hashtag search within WorldCat, and then you're only looking at books that are specifically related to lesson planning. All right. If you want to adjust that search at all, you can go up to the top and you see where it says here in really tiny green print, refine your results. I can click on that and I can add more terms to my search. So let's say that I do lesson planning, and maybe I want to see if there's kindergarten specifically. All right. Now remember, I might also need to look for EC, okay, early childhood, but I'm going to do kindergarten and hit search. And here you go. If I go through here, here's like the Substitute Teaching Survival Guide, Emergency Lesson Plans. I want to read that book, so I'm going to go down here and request it through Interlibrary Loan. And with a book, you should have it within a couple of weeks, hopefully a lot quicker. It depends on where we have to borrow it from. And again, if you are not in commerce and can't physically pick up this book, we will mail it to you. All right. The only other thing I would point out is we have a million, like tons of resources, so please go and explore. But we also have a database called Sage Research Methods. And I'm probably going to do a workshop on Sage Research Methods within the next month or so. But Sage Research Methods is literally thousands of resources about how to conduct research, how to write research. It's got a content planner, so it kind of gives you a timeline. So it's an invaluable resource, especially the more thorough research that you need to do. All right. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. I'm also going to stop recording now, so your questions will not be on the recording.